Welcome to another episode of the Soul Aligned Network private podcast. Today, I am joined by 𝗪𝗍 𝗪𝗏, a woman who knows firsthand what it means to completely rebuild your life. So within a few weeks, she faced a near-death medical emergency, the sudden loss of her mother, and the collapse of a 31-year marriage, leaving her completely untethered. And we're going to dive into this story and dive into what it is that Silke does today to support women. But first off, I want to welcome you, Silke. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Chris, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Yes. And yes, Silke is across the world. And so while it's early in the morning for me, it is late in the evening for her. So thank you again for just showing up to really share your story, because I know there are parts of your story that are really intended to connect with someone today. Whoever listens to this episode, and I say this to people all the time, they were guided to it. There's something in the message that you're going to share that is intended for them, whether they realize it or not. So I want to start by just really diving into your story, Silke. There is so much that you share. There's so much that happened, and I really would love for you to just take us back to that time where you said within a few weeks, everything seemed to just kind of fall apart. Tell us, what were those things that happened, and really what was going through your mind? And what gave you that courage to just begin again?
Really a very, very dark time. I mean, when people speak about tower moments, this was definitely it. So my life had been perfectly happy and productive up to that point, and I had lots of adventures. Things were good. I had just been able to buy my first home after many years of struggling. You know, the business was running well, and then suddenly, out of the blue, I had a medical emergency. My dog punched me in the gut. I suffered a belly button hernia, and without me realizing, it shut close on my gut. So therefore, I had an occlusion. And by the time I actually made it to hospital, I had about 4 hours left to live. So that, like I said, totally out of the blue, because I was fit, healthy, everything was going well. But of course, after that, I had a lot of time at home thinking about things. And when you're getting that close to the thereafter, a lot of things go through your mind. And also you start reevaluating some things in your life. So I spent a very quiet Christmas, which was unusual because I was normally preparing the family dinner, the family Christmas. That was always my job. And for the very first time in 52 years, I didn't actually celebrate Christmas. So it was a very strange period, a very reflective period. But then just when you thought things couldn't get worse, in early January, I received that dreaded phone call that every daughter dreads who lives away from home, because mum was in Germany, I was living in the UK. And basically her neighbors called me. They hadn't phoned me in over 30 years, so I got very concerned. And they asked me to come to Germany immediately. And when I said I was due a visit by the end of the month anyhow, they didn't think I should wait that long. So I got very worried, basically hopped in the car, drove to the Eurotunnel, and drove across Europe just to get to mum. And when I got there, the worst was confirmed. She had terminal lung cancer that nobody knew about, because she'd been concealing the fact that she was coughing with long COVID, because the cough started during the COVID period. So we were all blindsided, everybody. But basically, by the time I arrived there, she had another 7 days, and that was that. So again, completely out of the blue, completely unexpected. I was just about to travel to Germany to spend my birthday with her, and we were making plans for her to come to Bulgaria with me because we were both going to start a retreat center here. She was going to be my cook and everything. So yeah, so basically the rug was pulled away under my feet entirely. But then when I found my husband, who had stayed behind in the UK, it was the strangest phone call, because the man I knew for 31 years, who'd always been a lovely husband and a lovely guy, was completely stone cold, completely turned off, and basically told me that he didn't care and that mum had it all done to herself because she was a smoker, and he didn't want to know. He didn't even want to phone her to say goodbye. So I basically ended up, for the last few days of mum's life, lying through my teeth why he wouldn't come to see her, because she loved him like a son. And then to top it off, 2 days after that phone call, he sent me a text message saying that he was leaving, and that by the time I was returning to the UK, he would be gone. And just like that, my entire life had collapsed, just with one text message. And that was the darkest moment of my life. To be honest, I don't even remember much of that day, apart from standing there in mum's empty apartment, staring at a phone. It probably was for a few hours. I just stood there.
Yeah. My gosh, Silke. I mean, look at those 3 very significant events that just happened,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what was going through your mind at that time?
At the actual time, not a lot. My brain actually switched into survival mode, and all I kept focusing on was mum. I made sure that mum was all right. I made sure that mum was looked after. I made sure that I brought mum safely over the Rainbow Bridge. And until that point, when I came home after it finally happened, that's the point when I collapsed. And I had been at the hospital for 18 hours. Yeah, I was by her side until the very end. And when I came home, I actually just laid down on the bed, didn't even get undressed, and slept for 24 hours. And when I woke up from that, my life had completely changed.
Yeah. Now, what gave you that courage to really begin again? And tell us a little bit what that beginning looked like, because I know you've shared with me. Well, I'll let you share, but you just got your stuff, got in that Land Rover, and drove off. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Between coming back to the UK to the empty marital home and making the decision to start over, there is a period of about 6 months when I was in a deep depression. And to be honest, there were moments when I even seriously thought about, like, if it's still worth continuing. But then I had my dogs to keep me from any silly business, because when you have another living being to look after, somebody who's actually dependent on you, that makes a big difference. Because even on the days when I thought that it wouldn't be worth it anymore for me, I thought it wouldn't be fair on the dogs. So they were a lifesaver in a way. And I spent a long time on my own, because as I found out very quickly that all the people I'd regarded as friends in my life all vanished with my ex. And the neighbors also didn't want to speak to me anymore, because I was told in no uncertain terms that they were not going to get involved in maritals. And I told them, like, this is not a marital, it's over. It's safe to talk to me, but still they didn't want to get involved. So for almost 6 months, the only people I spoke to were the postman and the checkout girls in the supermarket. So eventually my GP, my doctor, arranged some grief counseling for me. And that was actually a turning point, because even though the young lady, bless her, was still very new, and she actually knew less about psychology than I do as a mentor, it didn't really matter as such, because the important thing was now there was a person finally to talk to. I knew that every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, I would turn on my Zoom, and there she was, and I could talk about whatever was on my heart and on my mind. And that made a huge difference. And she actually convinced me to get out of the house and take a break. So being a nature lover, and I love camping and all things to do with bushcrafting, I booked a local bushcraft camp. It was only 20 miles up the road for me, but again, it didn't matter. It was in 7 hectares of private woodlands. So me and the dogs were entirely on our own for a whole weekend, just in the woods. And I finally managed to ground a little. My nervous system started to calm down a bit, because I love being in nature, and nature has always been my go-to when I'm hurting or when I need comfort. So I literally walked the forest. I spoke to the trees. I hugged the trees. I lay on the grass. I listened to the moss growing. And in that stillness, I finally got this download, this idea. I remembered that I had my homestead in Bulgaria that I'd bought years earlier as a holiday place. And slowly but surely, this idea came into my mind that, the old marital home didn't really feel like home anymore. It was just a house now. And being surrounded by all these memories wasn't doing me any good. So I was really craving a fresh start by then. And then I thought, as a child, I always dreamt of being a homesteader. So I thought, well, now's my chance, because there's nobody left in my life who could stop me. Mum was my last living relative. There's literally just me, myself, and moi these days. And I thought, well, as sad as that is, it's actually a huge opportunity, because finally no one is telling me what to do. So I decided there and then to take the chance. I went home. I put my house on the market, and I think the universe was absolutely applauding me, because in the middle of a downturn in the real estate market, I sold that place in 3 days. It went on the market, it sold. Somebody had been looking at it already. They wanted it for a long time. And I sold the house, everything was arranged, and by the 1st of November, I packed my dogs into my old classic Land Rover and just drove 3,000 miles across Europe to get to my homestead.
Yes. Wow, Silke, there's so much bravery in all of that, and so much compassion, that you had to have for yourself to be able to put yourself first and say, this is what I need in my life right now. And you talk about losing everything, marriage, different relationships, different people. What did that do to your identity? How did your identity shift, or did it?
My identity didn't so much shift. I think what happened is, looking back now, I always was a very adventurous and courageous child and teenager. But then over the years, I just dimmed down my life to fit in with married life and so on. Because even though we were musicians and we had quite an eventful life, there was always the fact that he was the lead singer, he was in the spotlight, I was the bass player, I was in the back, and if I didn't shut up, it would cause conflict. So over the years, I just learned how to shut up and be the one in the background doing. And I convinced myself I was happy with that. And for a long time, I felt happy. But when I finally was completely on my own again and had that time to think, suddenly my original character started popping back up again, all this adventurous teenager. And I started thinking of all the things that I'd wanted to do before I got sidetracked and got married. So again, I thought, like, I have nothing to lose. I'm entirely on my own now. I can't upset anybody. I don't have to compromise with anyone. So what the heck? Let's just try it.
Yeah, it was that remembrance of who you are, right? And
Yeah,
I talk about
exactly.
that all the time. It's like we go through our lives doing the things that we believe are right, that we believe we're following those right paths, the careers. I mean, look at you, a musician, in a marriage for 31 years, and we're doing all those things. But sometimes in that process, we forget who we are deep inside. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and sometimes, and many times, I'm going to say it takes for a significant moment in our lives to get us to really pause and go within and say, who am I? Like beneath all these titles, all these, images or everything that I represent for everyone else, who am I deep inside? For me, that self-love. And it sounds to me like when you took that step to go back and reconnect with yourself, that's when you began to remember who you really are and who you were all along that maybe got buried beneath all the things in life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think in a way, one big catalyst for this was this enforced loneliness, because I had never, ever been alone in my entire life. I lived with my parents. And then when I was 19, I went off and married my ex. We were teenage sweethearts. So there was no period in my life where I'd ever been living entirely on my own. So this was the first time actually that I was alone. And even though it hurt like hell and I didn't like it and I felt lonely and I craved the connection and community, I believe now that actually this enforced isolation was a good thing, because it made me confront myself. It made me actually deal with myself. And even the days I spent literally, I literally did talking to the walls in the house, that was still a form of therapy, because when you talk at an inanimate object, you are actually talking to yourself.
And it's interesting you say that, Silke, because there's so many people who do not take that time of being alone, right? We are so overstimulated in our current society and this idea that you always have to be busy or doing something. But I find something so special in getting quiet and listening to yourself. I mean, your circumstances, were not easy. And you took that time to really, rebuild yourself and take this difficult moment, a period of time to go within and to listen to you. And with that, I know those experiences is what led you to serve the people that you do today, to serve the women. And so
Yeah.
let's shift a little bit and let's talk a little bit about women in midlife. Why do you think that women in midlife just often hesitate so much to rebuild?
I think it's fear,
Mhm.
foremost. Plain and simple fear, because I know it from myself. You go through life, you build up something that you believe is your life, even though a lot of it is just an illusion and a smokescreen. But it's your comfort zone. And within that comfort zone, within that little bubble, you know every single inch of your life, so there are no surprises, so you feel safe. So when you think about rebuilding, that means you have to step outside that comfort zone, which means you are actually now entering uncharted territory. You're basically leaving the road and are running off into the bushes where anything could happen. And
Yeah.
I think that is what scares most women, and that's what stops most women.
Yeah. And, you know, people think that they hit midlife and it's like, well, I'm entering this next period and I go like this, you know, down period. But it's like, to me, I've come to understand that it's a beautiful period of time. It's when women are really like rediscovering who they are. Because so many women have, especially women, I mean men too, but have lived their entire life under the beliefs of others, you know, under all the things that we thought were the proper way of doing things, the right way, what society said, what our culture instilled on us, and all those things. And you get to an age, and you know, a lot of people say it's a midlife crisis, and I'm like, no, it's a midlife crisis for the person who wants to see it that way. But what if it was more of that midlife redesign, right? Where you are fully aware that your old life no longer fits you. And now
Absolutely.
getting brave enough to do what you desire, to rebuild yourself. And I think we're seeing that more and more, you know, it's like people hitting their 50s and completely doing things a different way. And I don't know how old you are, but I say it because I have mentors that have like are hitting 50 and they're just like skyrocketing. And not just mentors, just women that are deciding that midlife is going to bring a whole new adventure to them, right?
Absolutely. Well, I am one of those midlifers myself. I'm 54 by now. So yeah, I totally agree with you that midlife nowadays is really a beautiful time. And like you said, even though so many people see it as the beginning of the end, I see it the other way around. It's actually just now life is only just beginning, because everything that's been leading up to here has been like a dress rehearsal. We've all been like learning our parts. We've been figuring out what to do. And now we've actually got the wisdom finally, and normally the attitude as well to go for it, because most of us have had something happen by now. We've lost people, or we've had career changes, or something has gone wrong in life. There's hardly anyone in this world where life goes perfect. So we've all had to deal with these adversities, which has made us stronger. And it's also given us the attitude of like, oh, what the hell can happen? You know, the worst is already behind us. So with this newfound freedom of not caring as much, there is a world of opportunity out there now, because there are so many things that we haven't done yet that we can still try. Now, I sometimes read the news and there is like 101-year-old breaking the record for the fastest runner. You know, she ran the 4-minute mile in like 5 minutes. Or bloody hell, even I can't do that at 54. And then you read others go to university at 98 just because that's what they've always wanted to do in life. So this period coming up now is so full of opportunities that I'm really looking forward to it, because I know the best years are yet to come.
Yes. So what do you believe are the biggest myths about starting over at 50? And how do you guide women through that redesign of their life?
The biggest myth is that life is over and that we should consign ourselves to our station in life, because I know it from myself. When I was in my 30s, my mother started telling me I was dressing inappropriately when I was wearing jeans and t-shirt. And I was thinking, bloody hell, man. No, I don't want to start wearing thrift shop stuff, you know? And then there's also this perception that as you get older, you should start sitting in the corner and take up knitting, or you should go to the Sunday bake at the church or do something very wholesome and very, very boring. And I think that's the biggest misconception.
And now, how do you support women in their journey today?
I support women by helping them transition from the corporate world into entrepreneurship. That's the focus of my mentoring work now, because over the years, I have lived through all sorts of situations. I've been a corporate employee. I have worked for myself for the corporate sector. I have been completely self-employed. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a freelancer. You name it. I have been in virtually every I strongly believe that women have the power and opportunity to change this world if they break out of the corporate world in particular and use their leadership skills to become entrepreneurs. Because when you become an entrepreneur, you finally take back your own time, you take back your freedom, you take back your money. And that's the important part, because we still live in a society where changing the world is expensive. It costs a lot. So if you want to change the world, you need the funds to do so. So what better way than to start your own business where you can make your own rules, earn your own money, and then use that money to redistribute and to do good with in the world. Because that's another myth. I absolutely believe it's a myth that money is scarce. There is enough money for everyone in this world, and everything else is just a scarcity mindset. And if the money was redistributed through the right channels, everyone on this world would be able to live comfortably. And I do believe that women in particular have the power to do that by redistributing as well through their own entrepreneurship.
I love that. I love that very much. And I agree. You know, last year was the year that I retired from corporate and went into entrepreneurship. And it has been the most beautiful season of my life. And I say today, you know, I'm a woman who's living the happiest, most aligned season of my life. And with that, has also allowed my relationships to expand and really just see that evolve at home with my husband, with my children. And it's absolutely beautiful. So there is a lot to be said when you choose yourself, when you choose to follow your dreams and your desires, and know that you will always be supported by God, the universe, source, whatever you believe in, as long as you believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Silke, this has been a great conversation for people that really connected with you, with your story, and want to learn more from you or just connect directly with you. How can they do that?
They can get in touch with me several ways. They can email me at silke@innerhippie.net. They can go to my website where they can find my email. They can also get in touch with me on Facebook, and the handle there is just 𝗪𝗏.𝗏.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure to add that in the show notes and the description of the episode so people can just connect with you in one click. Thank you so much, Silke. I appreciate having you here and just you being so vulnerable to share these deep, deep moments of your life. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Chris.